Hi, Claire. Okay. Go on, carry on. You're doing your introduction. Sorry, carry on. Okay, all right. Um, I suppose when I started my live streams, and I think this is core to how I analyze religion and everything I do, is what makes you happy. What makes you happy, Claire? So, does it really make you happy? If the change doesn't happen or things don't happen like you expect them to, does it really make you happy? This political activism? How do you keep yourself from being demoralized? Because ideally, you want to be happy. Therefore, you want to have a mechanism or a way of thinking so you don't get demoralized. Because would you agree you don't want external factors like the number of views controlling your happiness? Or do you want the number of views to control your happiness? How do you, so that's really interesting. So you okay, so views you agree don't really aren't the best way to keep you happy and maybe not the best measure of success. You say sometimes people hating you is a measure of success, but how do you know people hating you means they understood it? Yeah. Mm. Yeah, so I'm trying to pinpoint more and more accurately for everybody's benefit because I think this whole discussion can be a source of happiness for lots of people if they can find something that they can hold on to that doesn't depend on external factors. Um, so is it like so because it is a bit strange that you look because you've said that you find happiness in a strange way through people being angry at you. This is an interpretation of what you just said. Like if they're angry with you, that shows they understand what you're saying and therefore you're happy. How can people being angry with you make you happy? I want to suggest the reason because you find meaning. There's something called meaning that gives you happiness or purpose. Are you distinguishing? You do you disagree with the word meaning and you prefer purpose? I'm not even sure if that's the next question because I'm really interested in your happiness, and we're not because we're trying to remove the external effect on you. Um, or maybe that's what I do. I separate the external, which is God's job, because I'm a religious person, to what my job is, and am I doing my job? And so and I see it is inevitable that I'll be successful or I'll be part of that success, which is called, spreading Islam, which is it's going to happen anyway. I mean, I've got lots of evidence to say that's going to happen in spite of, whatever I do. It's in all sorts of wonderful prophecies have been written over 1,000 years ago, and they're all coming true already, in many ways. So it's inevitable for me that there is going to be the success, but that's not the measure of what makes me happy by itself. I want people to benefit from it, but that's not really my job. That's not a religious. I don't think religious people see it that way. Religious people see it as they just do their job. That's it. Human being, feeble, limited, can't really control the world, just does their job. But at the same time, religious people have a way more massive effect on the world than non-religious people, as shown by the example of Prophet Muhammad, who was a very humble person. He never knew what would happen, how he would become successful, and how his success came through miraculous, unpredictable ways. So that's why we're not concerned about how the success happens. Is that a good way to maintain happiness by not concerning yourself about how the success happens, but just doing your job? Um, Success for me is mostly internal. I think that gives some solace that whatever happens, we're going to win anyway as Muslims, right? As and winning is winning for humanity anyway, for humanity's benefit. It's not us versus them sort of thing. So yeah, that's part of it, but mostly happiness is internal because even if millions of people convert to Islam, whatever, then everything is going to disappear, right? Everybody's going to die. That the number of stuff and whatever doesn't really affect people. Whatever you get, you always get used to it. Like you convert a million people, just the numbers won't actually make you happy because it's just like, what's the difference between 500,000 and a million? What's the difference between 10 people and 500,000? These are just numbers. And the human condition is that we just get used to whatever we achieve. So you think you might be happy when you're a millionaire, but by the time you're a millionaire, you get used to having £1 million and spending that £1 billion, and you want to become a billionaire. So you never. So these kind of external things are things you get used to and can never really give you long-term happiness. So that's why I'm not too concerned about. I used to be more concerned about it, I think, when I was younger, but it's slowly kind of dissolving. I think I'm developing a more mature relationship with my happiness. So you will be happy. So you're not happy? Okay, sorry, go on. So yeah, so you look at Islam and you're saying it's inevitable. I would say kind of what you're saying is that because Islam's the only logical religion out there that actually has practical solutions to real world problems, it's inevitable that it will happen, and that's why you're behind it. Hmm. Hmm. Mhm. Hmm. Yeah. Alternative to what? Secular Quranism? Other than Islam itself, because this, yeah. So there's Islam, there's secular Quranism, and that's fine. I mean, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, secular Quran is a very cool idea. And I think it's quite smart on your behalf to realize. I, I mean, you're not the only person to realize it, but Islam's winning, as it were, is inevitable, just logically speaking, looking at the religion, looking at how it's solving problems right now. Um, but I don't see it as just either or. I think God has different ways or mechanisms to making things successful. So it could be that God uses secular Quranism for a while to ease people into Islam. Who knows? So I don't need to. I'm not concerned about how exactly things happen. It's not my business. God, that's God's business. But yeah, it could be that secular Quranism is just that mechanism. Is yeah. Yeah. Mm, mm. Well, I think it's really confusing what Christianity is, what version of Christianity we're looking at. Like, do you look at Old Testament Christianity? Because some Christians would say the Old Testament is just some relic of the past. You don't read it, you forget it. It's as Saint Paul said, it's a curse, so you're not even supposed to listen to it. But it's part of the Bible, and that part of the old part of the Bible says an eye for an eye, so it allows you to fight. But then on the other hand, Jesus actually said, if somebody slaps you on one side, offer the other cheek, which will make it pretty difficult to have a war because you go, charging in and somebody, whacks you with their sword or whatever it is, or bazooka. You say, shoot me again on the other side. Do you know what I mean? So it really depends if you're actually following Jesus's teachings. And if you're actually following Jesus's teachings, you wouldn't be able to wage war. But I get what you're saying, that it doesn't, I think the kind of, yeah. So what do you mean? Let's just clarify. What do you mean that Christianity doesn't stop you from waging war if there are teachings like Jesus's that say if somebody slaps you on one side, you you must offer the other side, you offer the other cheek. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he basically he never met Jesus, and he came along and basically abolished all of Jesus's teachings, because Jesus in the Bible said, "Follow the Old Testament, follow the law. I've come to complete the law," and uh, St. Paul, so-called St. Paul, said literally the opposite. And then what happened was, like in my understanding, was Jesus didn't fly off to space or heaven or whatever because he promised to go to these other tribes. You understand the Ahmadiyya understanding, isn't it? Right? Without me repeating all of that, right? So he went off to these other tribes of Israel that he promised to, because only two of the tribes were in Judea and Galilee, whatever you call it, right? And the other 10 tribes were spread around, in different parts of the world that he went to visit. And his tomb is in India, in Kashmir, so it's quite well known there. So he went there, but he left his half brother James as essentially the caliph, the khalifa, or his representative in the area of Judea, basically is modern day Israel, Palestine, right? And James was enemies of this guy called so-called Saint Paul, like, because his teachings were in complete contradiction to the actual teachings of Jesus. And so Jesus' representative was like, who you, like Saint Paul, just making up rules. So yeah, totally agree that modern day Christianity has nothing to do with what Jesus taught. Yeah, yeah, half brother, different mother, I think. Yeah. Some Roman who used to persecute. Oh, yeah, yeah. Sermon on the Mount. I mean, I'm kind of there's a vague memories of what it is. Uh, Blessed are the poor in spirit. Shall we read it a little bit? And okay, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they are will be comforted. That is actually quite confusing, to be fair. The poor. Hmm. Sure, it might. I'm not sure if it's a completely encompassing idea, but I am confused by the first sentence. Blessed are the poor in spirit. I mean, can I share the screen? It might make it easier for. I think I can actually. So if I press share, then does it? Oh, it does. There we go. So introduction to sermon about when Jesus spoke to the crowds. Blah blah. Blah. I'm only confused about this a little bit because blessed are the poor in spirit. Doesn't that mean you're not spiritual? Or am I misunderstanding that? Because how can they have the king? Ah, they sport. Okay, demoralized. Not okay. This is the problem with translations. I get. I guess. Yeah. So now I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. So if you're demoralized, you don't have the spirit, as it were. Then you will find the kingdom of heaven. I'm not even sure if that makes sense even then, because like just being demoralized, does that make you a person? Who deserves to go to heaven. You could just be a negative person. But anyway, blessed are those who mourn, they will be comforted. I think maybe unless you're talking to a specific, you already know these people are spiritual in some ways and they're suffering, then maybe in that context it might make sense. I do like the next bit though. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth, because that is an instruction to be humble, essentially. And I do think humble people or righteous people will inherit the earth, because this is something the Quran talks about anyway. It says it in slightly different ways. I think we've discussed that verse of the Quran which refers to the Bible, which it says the righteous will inherit the land or the earth, or whatever the different translations mean. So I would agree with Wouldn't you say being humble is an action? Isn't being meek or humble an action, like an activity, and through that activity, God promises you, if you do this, you will get this. Just focusing on this number five, verse number five. I think it's actually a practical thing that you can see in your life if you follow it. So I would agree with that. Not when you die. When you'll be successful on this planet if you are humble. So I would say Muslims are an embodiment of that truth in many ways. Like, how are they so easily taking over the UK? And loads of people accept that Muslims are taking over the UK. Elon Musk is scared of it. So many other people are scared of it. They're not, there's no weapons to be seen. They're just humbly doing their duty towards God, which is raising families, being righteous. And being righteous is actually wisdom, because being principled, yeah, like having values and all these kind of things, these are clever things to do. Like being righteous means your job as as a man, for example, is to pay for your family, whatever, and in return, guess what, you're going to be. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, and there's practical realities. Yeah. Yeah, and if you do those things, there is statistical evidence to say you will be successful. For example, I think you are you aware of that married men make more money than non-married men? Stats. I'm just saying. So I'm just connecting all these things. The meek are people who are humble enough to follow God's laws because you don't always. Yeah, and marry, for example, and then you will win. And people, and there is evidence to show that it will happen. It's not just an empty promise or something you have to wait until the next life, because this is talking about inheriting the earth, which is this life as well. Anyway, so that's those are my thoughts on that. What's this? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be fulfilled. I think that's true. Islam says, for example, or in Islam, there's a saying of Prophet Muhammad: if you take one step towards God, God takes 10 steps towards you. So if you work towards something, you will get it, especially righteousness. Do you disagree, or how do you feel about that? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the country. That's yeah, yeah. Islam is simple and clear, isn't it? It's just like, no, don't sometimes be a bachelor and then you're better than the people who are married. Yeah, I totally agree. That's a really glaring contradiction in Christian teachings. Yeah, and a confusing one. Yeah, I agreed with that. Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I used to say the reason why priests become pedophiles is because they do something unnatural, which is to be celibate. But you make an interesting argument that what kind of person would decide to be celibate their whole life? It would be somebody who might be gay or has all sorts of perversions already, so that increases their chance of being I don't know, a pedophile or something. Maybe it's all linked. Yeah, yeah. So they're just interested in the sex side of things, but they can't do it openly. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not saying this is just considering what you're saying. I'm not sure if it's 100% accurate or whatever, but it's an interesting idea. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if that's evidence of, but yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Um, yeah. Yeah. I mean, these are nice things that are said. It's true that they are not comprehensive because they don't have a mechanism necessarily clearly outlined, unless you look at more of the Bible. Um, but it is true, like you're saying, there's too many contradictions in the way the Bible. Well, Is it? Does the Bible say that you? Does the Bible have bits where it says you should be celibate to become a priest, or is that a later invention? Where does that come from? Ah, so to stop you being like a king who has heirs, i.e., have male children who become kings after you, they were stopped from having children. Is that what you're saying? Hmm. Hmm. But even then, it's up to between you and God. Like we're told in the Quran, don't treat your scholars like gods. So it's at the end of the day, it's between you and God. But it's useful to have these judges who spend their time, researching and studying the law. But at the end of the day, you're not supposed to follow them blindly. So yeah. Hmm. 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 I don't agree hell is forever. Because logically that would be wrong. How can you be? I mean, I understand that a lot of Sunni Muslims or many Muslims, let's could say it, do say that, but you can look at the Quran and the way that the Quran talks about heaven and hell, it essentially means hell will be a long time, which has been translated as forever. And even in English, you can say you'll be here forever. It doesn't literally mean you'll be here forever, but there's additional words added on to the meaning. Like they have very. If you look at the, we can go into it if you like, but it's a bit technical. If you look at the verses that talk about heaven and hell side by side, there's one of them that says really really long time for hell. Then it looks at, when you talk about heaven, it says really really long time and beyond. So it basically makes, but essentially means heaven will be forever or way longer than hell at least. Yeah, but hell is going to be there for a long time. It's a slow recuperation of the soul. When you've harmed your soul in this life, it's there to recuperate. And eventually there are sayings of Prophet Muhammad which basically tell you that nobody will be left in heaven, I mean hell, after a while. Um, and that's logical because how can you be um, punished infinitely for limited sins? Do you get that? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, I'll post it in the bottom. Yeah, because it's a bit technical. I did a whole live stream and a whole discussion with a non-Ahmadi or an ex-Ahmadi Muslim, so we go into a lot of depth into that. But yeah, and but I will post that video plus the verses. Yeah. Hmm. 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 But just to clarify, Islam doesn't teach that this life a misery in the hope that maybe if you get lucky, you will find paradise in the next. What it also teaches is that it gives you evidence that you will find happiness you will also, okay, let me put it this way. There's a verse of the Quran that says those who fear God's judgment will have two paradises, and the two paradises basically mean paradise in this life and the next. So by making good choices in this life, you will have a hint of the paradise you'll find in the next. So it's kind of evidence that you're on the right track, not just hoping that it will be better. You will find heaven. You will have evidence that you will achieve heaven by finding a good. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's plenty of evidence for that. There's like people evil have a pretty miserable life, and people do good things. Even if they have less things, they seem to be happier. And there's, we can discuss that if that's really true. But I would say there's plenty of evidence, and my own experience is that, yeah. Would you say there's no reward? Do you feel like there's no reward? Do you have no joy in doing this? Or I think you can rob yourself of the joy if you try to give into external validation. But if you keep your choices pure, I feel like there's something here. So, like if you keep your intentions pure, you're pure in heart, you don't rob yourself of the joy. So like, let me ask this as a question. Do you feel like there's no joy in doing your political activism? Okay, cool. Can I ask you something you said in the beginning and I want to compare? You said you started off by saying the things that make you happy are food, good company, and eventually came to this political activism. How would you compare the happiness you gain from food to the happiness you gain from um, this political activism or spreading the truth? Yeah, maybe it sounds like a silly question, but for me, the pleasure of eating whatever I enjoy it, but I don't really I care for them less and less. They're becoming increasingly meaningless to me. So I can just eat anything. You know, I've been to loads of different restaurants, eaten everything almost, not everything, but a lot of different things, right? And they used to be more pleasurable to me, but they're becoming less and less important. I mean, do you feel that way as you get older that you've been there, done that with so many other things, and maybe the more subtle things are more pleasurable? Mm. Oh, so I thought you said erotic for a second. You said neurotic, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Mm. Okay. Why are people not listening to their fathers while maybe Muslims are doing it? I have heard that subtle thing that I even hear it from I don't know, a boomer influencer who's telling young people, "Oh, you have it hard. You're not as lucky as the boomer class or the boomer generation, I should say." So I suppose I never really thought of it that way, but I do get that sense actually, and I got that sense more when I heard Nathaniel talk about how, well, maybe it was you and Nathaniel. Nathaniel's a Catholic regular on our streams, um, saying how people are not inheriting from their parents, which really confused me because as a Muslim, we always in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh, it's gone that far, has it? Wow. And Zoomers are again like how old are they? 20 something? Okay, yeah. All right. Okay. Cool. So that's me, I guess. Late mid 40s. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I didn't really pay attention to it too much. I mean, I don't even know them. I keep forgetting which generation or category I belong to. So you think there's a actual attempt to get generations to hate each other and divide people by generation? I kind of hear that, but not really. Yeah. Mm. Interesting. I think this is a very Western problem because, like in Eastern traditions or cultures, people love the older generations revere them and treat them specially. Mm, a biblical teaching. Yeah. Mm. Well, the better. So, yeah, I agree with your logic, and I think we're trying to benefit everybody's viewing. So, I agree with your logic that if you treat your parents, what was it that you said? If you treat your parents badly, then your kids will treat you badly. Was that the logic? And then the opposite would be if you treat your parents well, then your kids will see that good example and treat you well. And there's a saying of Prophet Muhammad in that sort of vein, which is like if you treat somebody well, God will send somebody to treat you well in your old age, which is logical because you create that you teach the younger generation how to behave. Then inevitably somebody in that younger generation is going to learn from that good behavior and treat you or respectfully in your old age. So yeah. Hmm. Well, actually, I mean, I was sitting down. I was back in London the other week, and I was watching my dad watching normal TV, and in between his shows, there's adverts for wheelchairs and lots of old people going on cruises and stuff like that. So they know how to they know who to serve, who's watching what and what to serve. Yeah, 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 yeah. My dad's always saying like, "Oh, these people selling funeral care must be making a lot of money with advertising all the time." It's just quite funny for me because yeah, that's what happens if you watch normal TV. Because I don't think young people watch normal TV that much. Oh, absolutely. The other day, I looked at a flight from Ghana to whatever, and it happened to come across, but so I ended up bumping into Ethiopian Airlines. Now I get lots of adverts from Ethiopian Airlines, so they definitely sell your data across websites. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's a really interesting. Oh, what's really funny right now? I can see an Ethiopian airline on the bottom of the page. Maybe it was it there when it did it show it? It was an overlay. Oh, well, let me just for the fun of it, see if it shows. 1 second. Does it show? Yeah, there we go. Ethiopian Airlines. We were talking about it and it's still there. All right. Oh, you can't see it on the shared screen. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hilarious. Okay. Anyway, that's it. That's a really interesting point about only child because nowadays, if Westerners do push themselves to have children, then they're less children. Yeah, and that's really interesting. I've seen my one of my younger brothers who's got one child so far. I mean, he's still about 30 something. Hopefully have more children. But yeah, I can see him being really soft, and he's 2 years old, but I keep pushing him around to make him a bit tougher. And my brother goes, "Hey, stop pushing my son around." But yeah, yeah, mollycoddled. Yeah, definitely. That is a concern. And yeah, and did you say they get bored? I would say they do get bored. That yeah, yeah. And what did they become? What was the word? Bores. What was the word? Ah, bores. Yeah, yeah. Boring people to listen to. Yeah, yeah. Mm, yeah. I can imagine that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is not hating on what's it called? Only child. But yeah, I think I can imagine that does happen. Yeah, and I think you give a lot give a good logical explanation to as to why. Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you know the Islamic idea of inheritance is that it doesn't matter if you like them or not. There's a fixed amount that kids get. You know, so, yeah. So is your argument that the kids have to be nice to you to get inheritance? But I don't think that's the Islamic idea. Is that? I'm not sure if that's a. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. I've never heard of that in Islam. That you can disown and discat like this guy, this kid, no longer my kid. He doesn't get in. Is that a thing? Have you heard of that in Islam? I've never. Oh, okay, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've never heard that in Islam. So, yeah, yeah. All right. Yep, it doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah, apparently they moved on to a three-child. I mean, all the big governments realize it's a huge problem for the future that you have to have more children than the previous generation. Otherwise, the previous generation won't be maintained, and actually, your economy won't even work because economies are based on exchange of goods. People wanted to buy and sell things. Yeah, young people invent things, they come up with new ideas, and there's so much to it. So anyway, the Chinese realized this is a major problem, the one child policy. They were wrong. Um, and then they invented or they increased the number to a three-child policy, but people are not doing it because they've been socialized or trained to not have children, to look down on having children, and it's not so they're not having more children. It's true. Yeah. I do laugh when you say it's religion is to scare people into behaving well, but there is a lot of truth in that. Both the Bible and the Quran talked about. I talked about the verse, the, for those who fear God's judgment, they will have two paradises. But also, the Bible says something along the lines of fear of God is the root of all, the root of wisdom, or the beginning of wisdom. So we'll say that again. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in that because the way we work psychologically is we are forgetful. We forget that we're not going to live forever. So we need this mechanism to keep scaring us because our logic is not good enough, I think. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's happened. Yeah. Yeah. Shame is a useful mechanism. I think you brought that up once. Shame in traditional societies is a useful mechanism to push people into doing things they should do. It makes me laugh because in Chinese societies, what do they call them? Leftover women or something? Ah, spinster. Yeah, they used to say. Doesn't and a lot of Hollywood movies promoting single women to stay single, and it doesn't matter if you're single, and Sex in the City and all that kind of stuff. Hmm. 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 Yeah. I mean, you say, I mean, just, I don't know if I want to start another conversation because we're winding up here, but as I've said before, you think changes happen from on top. I've always said changes happen from below. That's the Islamic or religious tradition of it's always the meek and the humble that we were talking about that and eventually inherit the earth. Um, yeah. Hmm. No, I think we have a responsibility to talk to all people, but yeah, I think the leadership reflects the people. So if the people are corrupt, you get corrupt leaders. So yeah, that's another Islamic idea. But yeah, absolutely. Mm, yeah. And just to finish off, because of all this Epstein stuff that's coming out, and we're finding out loads of the, I don't want to call them elite, these the billionaires and the people who control things. A lot of them are pedos, and I'd say if you don't want them to be pedos, then don't be a pedo yourself, because pedophilia is massively increasing all over, especially in America. And where does that start from? That's masturbating over pornography. Where does that start from? Just a lack of morality and a disregard for marriage. So it all starts from somewhere. So if you want, yeah, if you don't want bad leaders, evil people, start, as I say, stop pointing the finger, point the thumb. That's where it starts from you. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. These are just healthy laws, isn't it? There's a reason why you don't sell crack cocaine in Tesco's or in the shops. Do you know what I mean? Because it's bad for you. Or outside school. So why would you allow porn on the internet? It's bad for society. So I think it's slowly happening, isn't it? Some Australia and one or two other countries. Was it Norway said no more bad social media or controls on social media. They should probably control porn more and make it illegal and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people who are control, I mean, without going into it too much, what's his name? Other common friend. God. But anyway, porn is not there by accident. Let's just say it. Cool. Absolutely. I like the Sermon on the Mount. I think it's some pointers, but I don't think it's a complete teaching. But I like it. It's a kind of a summary or reminder of good things lead to good results. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, yeah, sure. Interesting. Okay, cool. I better go, but thank you very much. It was an interesting conversation. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Bye.